Beautiful. All right. Okay, so we're going to start with some public sharing and storytelling. We'll start with Jerry. Let's go.
Hello everybody, and thank you for being here. It's really good at a time like this to see all these faces. It's a very difficult thing, a sudden loss, a big loss, and it's left us all floundering. So, what are we going to do? Well, I thought of three things. One, if we're going to honor and respect the life of Kathy Epling, we should all work for peace. Another is, if we're going to honor and respect the life of Kathy Epling, we should promote reading. Read books. Our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. Especially poetry. Very important. And the third thing is to have kindness and respect and love for all living things, if we are going to honor Kathy. Even cats, which I have a hard time. Oh, and I thought of one other thing. If we're going to honor and respect the life of Kathy Epling, have a good, strong cup of coffee.
I'm going to go right to Francesca Hampton here. And Francesca, I've known her almost as long as I knew Kathy, from before I was even a teenager, back in Santa Monica when I was 9 or 10. When Kathy first came into our lives, so did Francesca, and she is dearest, oldest friend of Kathy's and just radiates many of the same beauties that Kathy did. So here she is.
Hi, it's so wonderful to see you all here today. You're her community that she loved, and I never got to see you all here together. I hope I get to meet many of you here today. I got a little carried away writing this, so I'll probably cut some of it short. I met Kathy in 1964 when we were both students at Santa Monica High School. I remember being invited to her house. It was like a poster for House Beautiful in the 1950s. You would not recognize the Kathy of then. She has a lovely picture on her on her cell phone of Kathy's high school graduation picture. It was very different. She excitedly shared pictures of her childhood in Japan and other places her father had taken the family in his military career. We became instant friends that day. We stayed friends through college at UCLA, and as our lives took us to different places, through a correspondence and occasional visits which lasted our whole lives. In my life, there has been no one else I could talk to like Kathy. Holding it together here. And she with me. I thought of her as my sister. I hope in all the stories today we all get a better sense of the whole of her life. But there is one important thing I want to say about her. I believe in her very brief life, Kathy Epling achieved something really rare in today's world. She became like a great soul. They have the term Mahatma to talk about Gandhi. I know she didn't change a country, but she so changed everyone who came in contact with her. There are many extraordinary things about her life worth remembering, but to me that is the most important. She was extraordinary even as a teenager and a 20-something. According to our high school counselor, who's not supposed to tell us this, Kathy was the person with the highest IQ in Santa Monica High School, which had thousands of students at that time. Her boyfriend had the second highest IQ, which he never got over. She was an empath. She knew what you were feeling. She felt it with you. She was a psychic so sensitive. We joked that I didn't even have to let her know I was coming to visit. She would dream it, and she often did. In her 20s, she and I moved to different places and well, I said that already. She said she saw ghosts sometimes. She saw people who weren't there. She heard voices, and I was a little worried about her in her 20s, but I think that calmed down, but she kept that incredible sensitivity. In her early and middle years, she channeled this sensitivity into poetry and later essays that are some of the best I've ever encountered anywhere, though they have yet to be put into book form, and I was really glad to see that some effort is starting in that direction. She published many times in national publications and won one of the national prizes for poetry one year. You all know an extraordinary collection of her work is online in her blog. It's 8 years online currently, and Garth, I have several years more that I have downloaded to my computer. It's on a drive I'll give you today. Kathy was a quiet rebel who simply could not accept the models and rules of society that were presented to her. Believe me, we were starting off in the 50s, right? I mean, it was pretty grim. I was so glad when it all started to change just as we arrived at teenage life. In the normal course of life, brilliant as she was, she would likely have gotten a PhD in literature, taught at an Eastern college, become a prestigious poet, married a professor, gone to conferences and cocktail parties. And she got a taste of that life with her first love, Hillel. She went to Europe, and I encountered her again at New Haven, Connecticut when he was at Yale for a while. But in the end, she chose none of that. She followed where her heart led. And she came up here to be with her soul friend and teacher, Sally Constantino, and his mother. I think Sally was a teacher to all of us to some degree. She was such a brilliant, insightful woman. She came to share at first their life by the river, and then she moved on to cleaning motels. That was her start in Garberville. She became the unmarried mother to Garth, and then moved to the Orange Cat bookstore with Garth's father, John. It was her children with John and later with Paul that were just a revelation to Kathy. It began to shift and change her and open her. She took such total delight in all three, birthing them at home with midwives, or trying to. I think with Laurel it got a little dicey there. 5 days of labor and hospital. She named them as only a poet could, with Garth. I mean, how many Garths do you know? Laurel Calypso, one of the most beautiful names I've ever encountered. Gabriel Merlin, what magical names she gave her children. They were with her every day throughout her childhood since she decided not to send them to school, where she feared they might be dulled or regimented. She read them 1,000 books, showed them how to garden and love animals, encouraged each step they took in life in whatever direction they wanted to go. She nurtured them to become themselves as naturally as the flowers she planted. To find what interested them in the wealth of literature and high-level conversation that flowed through her houses. When gaps appeared, like Garth's need to learn math, I remember algebra was not a big topic at home. She found a tutor to help him. She wrote her poems during this time one line at a time, between motherhood and steady hard work. She made a unique handmade catalog of books for expectant and new mothers that became part of the lives of hundreds of women. They shared their stories of motherhood. She wrote loving poems in there. She shared recipes and advice. And when Gabriel was born, she never once flinched from the commitment that he would need from her over 30 years of intense and ever-increasing daily care by the time she passed. In all her letters to me, she never once made a single complaint. What she did share was her love and delight in him, expanding each year of his life. In the course of healing Gabe of his many childhood diseases, Kathy taught herself homeopathy and worked for years with her friend Dr. Vaughn, I believe, help and successfully heal others throughout the community. A girl who had once been labeled as by an excited teacher as a future scientist, instead made herself an expert in astrology, giving long, elaborate readings for others. Not because she necessarily believed in the direct influence of stars and moon, but because she had found that in the course of the process of doing a reading, she and the person she read for inevitably came to a more profound and helpful understanding of themselves. Astrology became another vehicle to love and empower the people around her. As you know, she was also adamantly politically aware, though she did it very quietly. She worked with her partner Paul to oppose the draft and fight for the Headwaters Forest, and I know many other causes that I'm not even aware of. She was too peaceful at heart to be shrill, and told me she did not really enjoy demonstrations per se, but she went to them anyway. She took phone calls from Julia Butterfly, I understand, is that correct? She supported many others who used their bodies to protect the forest giants. She and Paul offered sanctuary to young men evading the drafts of 3 wars, and for years with Paul gathered articles, wrote poems, did the layout, and printed Green Fuse, one of the most unique political voices in America, which you'll see over on the side. For those decades of war, Kathy also went out, rain or shine, to stand in quiet witness to man's acts of inhumanity with the women in black. She worked for decades on the hospital board to keep the community clinic open. She went to the Midwest to tenderly help each of her parents in turn to die and their relatives. I think it was in her last years, however, that Kathy became the great soul I described in the beginning. As you know, her life became focused in the Tiger Lily bookstore she shared with Paul. Never was or will be an enterprise more different from the corporate model. The two had long ago made the conscious choice never to make enough money to pay taxes that might be used to fund war or government violence in any form. Their store was instead a crossroads of love, shared stories, joy in literature and history and philosophy, and constant, unceasing efforts on behalf of others and the forests around them. Books were shared and discussed with enthusiasm, as often given away or exchanged as sold. There was free fruit for the hungry, warm socks or a blanket for someone who arrived cold. Non-existent money somehow was found to bail a beloved dog out of the pound. Efforts to find lost relatives, or medical care, shelter for a baby born to a homeless mother, or just provide comfort to a sad friend locked in a distant prison. In her spare time, Kathy took trowel in hand and went out to plant flowers in every bit of bare, neglected patch of earth she found. Lost animals were taken in and others promoted for homes on the internet and so much more. In these intense last years, Kathy never closed herself off to the pain others felt. Even when at times like the recent oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico, it literally almost killed her. She told me that. She never ever saw people as losers or broken. She saw them as their best selves, working with what life had thrown at them. She would do anything in her power to help them or rejoice with them or just enjoy a passage in a book together. Or a new rose growing outside the window. My own path has led me to be a Buddhist, and there is much discussion of compassion, loving kindness, and empathetic joy in Buddhism. But in all my years, I have never met a single person who so incarnated these qualities as Kathy Epling. She developed her heart over long years in this community, not through religious practice, but by the simple practice of paying attention to the person in front of her. The flashes of intellectual arrogance or self-pity she sometimes very humanly showed in her youth faded away. It was love that simply filled her in her later years. She became the community's storyteller, social worker, peacemaker in confrontations, wise woman, friend to all. When someone in the community once called her an enabler, she answered this way, and I think some of you have seen this on Facebook. "I want you to reclaim the term enabler," she wrote. I want to proudly say, yep, I do enable people. I do help them. I'm not ashamed of this. I invite you to join me. When we are tiny, someone holds our hands to help us take our first tentative steps. They enable us to dance and run and climb. If we are fortunate, someone sometime patiently sits with us and helps us trace letters or make sounds, and the whole world of literacy, books, mind adventures bursts open for us. If we are lucky, when we find ourselves lost, someone stops and points the way. I have been very lucky in my life. So now when a man tells me, though he is a strapping big kid, that he doesn't read very well, no one taught him, he was tossed from foster care to foster care and dumped out, and gosh, he'd like to learn more, I am happy to give him books, simple books, and take a moment. When a girl trembling with cold comes to my doorway, I'm happy to give her a warm coat or a blanket or whatever. When a scared kid who has just tried to kill himself comes to me, I listen with all my heart and tears in my eyes, and if there is something I can give or some connection I can make, then I do it. I have been so richly blessed in the opportunities in my life, and I'm so happy to be a channel to pass on those blessings, or those cups of water, or those sweet apples. I want to be the enabler who lets someone see another day. I want to enable life and love and happiness and connection. Don't we all want this? So to friends who say, yes, but you know you are an enabler, Kathy, I say, damn right, and proud of it. Remember. So what happens when such an essential human being, almost finished, I promise, when such an essential human being is torn so shockingly away from us? Does she go on to another life? Buddhism would say she does. And with Kathy's ocean of good karma and strong attachment to this community, I would not at all be surprised to see an unusually radiant child born among you sometime soon. Does she go to heaven? Kathy mainly focused on Christianity, and Christians, I think, would say few people have earned it more. Perhaps, after all, it is the simple oblivion that we all fear that took her away after a few missed breaths. But I personally find it very hard to believe a mind so filled with knowledge and love could simply become nothing. There is no other kind of energy in nature that becomes nothing. In nature, both matter and energy simply change form, cycle back, renew, and reshape themselves endlessly. But even if Kathy herself is no longer in hailing distance, what is still very much present is the impact she left behind in each one of us who loved her. My friend truly was a Mahatma, a great soul, in how she changed each of us, enabled us to be better people, and showed us how to pay attention to the beauty of each person in front of us. That is the part of her that is not lost. That is what we will have of her as long as we live. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. That was a very beautiful 3 minutes. Joanna Markham. Joanna?
Yeah, that's great. That's good, thanks. I'm a raindrop in the ocean of Kathy's life. I feel like I have had some of the most life-changing experiences sitting with Kathy, and significant. I think I first became closest to Kathy during the Save the Richardson's Grow project about 5 years ago. I've known her from around town my whole life, but we became close then, and she published my writing in the Green Fuse. I've been published once, and it was by Kathy. Sorry. It was titled What Naked Means to Me. And yeah, we connected on many levels. My mom called me immediately when she heard Kathy passed, and I had already heard. My mom told me that Kathy was the mother she wished she had been, and that was really interesting to me because my mother is amazing, and it was because Kathy had been the activist and the artist and the astrologer that my mother, she desired to accomplish and sees in me. I have a poem that I wrote for Kathy, and I also have a poem that on Facebook, Kathy suggested Sarah Teasley as a poet that I might enjoy. So I wanted to read 2 poems, if that's okay. Mysteries revealed, a transcript she could read. The starry night, stories that are never told, glimpsed through the windows, children's twinkle, glistening hope. If we raise them well, they too will find it, serenity within, absence of accused sin. Keep having them, birthing children. I imagine yours to be my grandchildren. I'm selfish, I know, but I love watching them grow. That's reflecting on a conversation we had. And this is Sarah Teasley. If I must go to the heaven's end, climbing the edges like a stair, the ages like stairs, be near me and forever bend with the same eyes above there. Time will fly past us like leaves flying. We will stand, not heed, for we shall be beyond the living, beyond dying, knowing and known unchangeably. Thanks.
Lorraine Carolyn, are you ready? I don't know, can you hear me? Okay. I actually did not plan on coming up and saying anything. Each one of us has a story of some kind of how Kathy intersected our lives and traveled with us for a little while. So here's part of mine. I met her, I saw her, and she was this like thing of beauty wandering through Garberville. It was really impressive. And then I met her, and then we became friends. We shared a lot, a whole lot. We met over words and books and babies. I was honored to assist her as her midwife for all 3 children. And we got closer, as you can imagine, and closer. A kind of intimacy that never happens any other time and lasts a lifetime, many lifetimes. When Garth was born, it was a long, hard labor, and she ended up in the hospital. Garth, I can't remember how old you are.
37.
But it's got to be in the 30s somewhere. And I was not allowed into Garberville Hospital at the time. So I had to, every once in a while, a compassionate nurse would let me peer through the cracks in the doors and watch her labor. But she was pretty close to delivery when she got there. And then we sat outside on the curb, listening. After Garth was born, she and I came pretty clear that things had to change, not just having created Redwoods Rural, but for the whole community, for everywhere around birthing. And we did. It wasn't too many years later that I was one of the sole
birth providers at the hospital. And mainly, she was totally committed to midwifery in whatever form, and we both knew it took many forms. Kathy was a midwife in this community, as we all know. I also was with her through the next two delightful births, and the one thing I remember about one of them was how completely connected to the wild she was, despite much of her life being living on the streets of cities and Garberville. Because during that particular delivery, we had mating skunks about 10 feet from us, who kept coming together, and she would follow them, and it went on and on. It was a wonderful image. And then I realized why every time Kathy and Paul would come to the clinic, there would be this faint, musky scent. And she and I howled with laughter over that. And skunk medicine, medicine that attracts and repels, could be said about my friend Kathy. Today I was really bringing my gift of a dessert. And I was a release, my grandchildren are here, so it's a very simple pulling together of basic ingredients that we all hopefully have nearby, blackberries and apple. And I began assembling the ingredients and realized that each thing I added was a memory of Kathy. And each thing I mixed was a prayer. And I felt very, very connected and felt like, yes, I will add roses and lavender to this crisp. Yes, I will take the lavender flowers that had the bugs on them, because Kathy would really like that. So that part, that quirky part of Kathy, that, oh, I see it this way, but let me shift and tell you what it looks like from here. That was my friend. Everything she touched became a growing memorial, as Francesca so lovingly put it. And when I realized I would say something, I went down to the loving memorial by the post office and found a little bit of shade to just remember other times of Kathy's life and mine. And looked at the shade and looked at the flowers. I thought, yes, it's creative, it's beautiful. It is Kathy. She embodied beauty in her own way in everything she saw and touched. And like you said, she saw beauty in everyone, even the people she detested, which she did. We know that. So I personally would like the other memorial for her, besides some gardens, because she touched in garden. I want to see a Kathy Epling Memorial Community Shower and Shitter, please. Could we do that? Would that not reflect so much of what Kathy knew and did? I keep hearing since she died how Kathy Epling was a saint. And I'm thinking, a saint? I don't know. I love Kathy, but I watched Kathy through so much as she did me, and she let me know what she saw. And I thought, actually, she is so blessedly human that of course that's what saints are. And she knew that there was one everywhere, in every human, and probably every dog she met, and cats, and anything else, and skunks. And that's what we can continue to remember, that beauty, that momentary connection, that Kathy, it will help me. She inspired me, and she inspired this young woman who just spoke. And when she died, I went, all right, that does it. I'd better write a poem a day, you know. It hasn't happened. But I thought that because she inspired that. She definitely made me remember. And humans who act like she did, who walk the earth, who give birth, who make love, who get mad, who curse powers that seem beyond our touch, and who take that next step every time, because she didn't just stop, she moved. And that action is inspiring. She acted with words, she acted with her body when she went reluctantly to any demonstration. And that's what our saints have to be. They have to inspire us to be human and act on it, to move forward. I don't know what I wrote. So when I was about to give birth to my daughter 28 years ago, Kathy wrote me a poem. And the end of that poem, it said, "Come pearl, come feather." And that has been through my head almost daily since she died. Pearl, the hidden gift of the sea that is so much a part of our earth. And she was such a pearl, and the feather that floats to the earth. And she did, and we were all blessed by it.
Thank you so much. Felix? We just have one more speaker before we break for dinner. Felix, are you here?
Hi, everybody. I wasn't really planning on speaking either, but Kathy and I lived next door to each other for the past 20 years almost, and she was there for me in a million ways. And brought me oatmeal when I was recovering from knee surgery, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I totally agree that the best way we can honor Kathy is to try to be more like her. In, whatever our given challenges are, mine might be temper, but whatever yours might be. Just think, what would Kathy do? And try to do it. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody that feels the urge to come up here? We would make it real quick though, because we do have another sharing session at 7, so just a couple minutes. Yeah, can she come first and then you, or you want to just wait just a moment?
Boy, I'm really going to miss Kathy. I'm really missing her. And everybody's talking about her being a saint. And to be a saint, you actually have to create some miracles to be canonized. And she did a lot of them, but she did 2 personally for me. I got injured really badly one day. I fell on a log and I got a giant hematoma on my leg. And the health center said, "You're going to be on crutches 3 to 4 months." And I was going crazy being at home and just stuck. And my neighbor was driving me around, chauffeuring me to town. So I said, "Take me to the bookstore. I need to load up on books." And I go in there and Kathy said, "What's wrong?" And I told her, and she said, "Oh, there's a homeopathic remedy for that." And she gave me the remedy. I took a dose and she told me to take it before I go to bed at night. I woke up the next morning and my hematoma that had been this large, the size of a mango, had gone down to the size of about a plum overnight, and within 3 days it was entirely gone. And I was only on those crutches for 2 weeks, and I threw them away instead of 4 months. And the next time I got stabbed under the nail with a sharp, dirty, rusty object. And I was soaking it, putting poultices on it, but it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I said, "Oh, I better go to the health center," but it was the weekend. So I went into the bookstore, and Kathy goes, "Oh, what happened?" And I said, "Well, I got stabbed under the nail with a dirty, sharp, rusty object." And she goes, "Oh, there's a remedy for that." And I took the remedy, and within an hour, it stopped throbbing. And by the next morning, this infected thumb was totally healed. And I really do think Kathy actually is a literal saint, and I really miss her so much. You know, she was just the most kindest, compassionate person I've ever met.
I guess a long time ago was when I first met her. It was in the early 70s. We started having poetry readings at the library. The Community Credit Union is in there now. That used to be a library. And she came across this astonishing poetry, and following her lead, I got off a few good ones myself, but I was nothing compared to her. She was really, she was the paste under the wallpaper when it came to getting into the depths of things. And I wrote a few novels back in those days. I was out on this commune that turned Jesus freak, and I wrote a book about that. And I was just a beginning writer, and she read my manuscript for me. And I'd sent it around to probably 100 different publishers, and it didn't fly. And I told her, I said, you know, I'm not getting published. She said, well, you know, you were lucky. It wasn't that good. I'll never forget that. Anyway, I have a haiku for her. This is it. There's nowhere to go and nowhere to get. This is it.
We've got Green Man.
My name is Green Man. That's what they call me. My name is Charles. I came into town 5 years ago. Came into town with a backpack, sitting in Veterans Park. And
buy your son something else besides your stuff.
I understand it. Asked around a little bit the first day here, where could I get an address or someone could help me out to get in contact with my mom. So I could send her things and she could send me things back, and take care of some personal business. And it didn't take but 2 seconds to find out that right across the street was this lady kid named Kathy that had a bookstore that go in there and meet her and she'll let you use her address. She would get whatever you need. And the time that I met her, like I said, I came in town with just a few dollars. I needed a place to get my food stamps, to get some money to eat with. And she helped me out with that. She also helped me contact my mom, use her phone. She helped a friend of mine get shots for his dog. She helped get blankets. I'm one of those in Veterans Park to where she still helped. And she did it all the time. There was a little memorial thrown for her by the kids at Veterans Park that I wanted to speak at there, but didn't really get to that point. So I thank for this moment that I can actually speak up and say, thank you, Kathy, for who you are. And I truly believe there's a doorway open to where she's here now listening to people remembering and speaking up for her and seeing what she was about and who she was. And I'm glad to be part of her life, and I'm glad she was part of my life. I'll never forget her. I think of one verse in the Bible, when I think of someone so beautiful, like Kathy, that's just in a bookstore. I mean, if someone's just in a bookstore like that, and you just know there's wisdom there. Always be aware of entertaining strangers, for by doing so, some entertain the angels of God unawarely. And I think instead of birds flock together in the same, I think of her like angels of the same feather flock together. She was truly divine. Thank you.
everyone. I'm glad to see everybody here, and I'm glad we could make it down here for this gathering to remember Kathy. And I just want to tell you a couple things that I have a horrible memory, which isn't so great with the work I do, or the life I have. But so two memories I just wanted to tell you about. One was I think I got closest to Kathy and to Paul in about 15 years ago. I was in the Humboldt County Jail for a few months, and I don't know if it started because I was going to put an article. I was in jail behind the Mattoll Free State, but we were going to put an article in the Green Fuse. But when I talked with Kathy on the phone, she was like, "You call anytime. This is from jail." And so it was kind of like having parents, you know, close by, and I did. I called them. They always accepted it. Other people didn't, you know, but and then I would go by the bookstore at weird hours, you know, and it just I know a lot of people can say they got comfort and love and grace, such grace whenever you're with Kathy, you know. And the other thing I wanted to say, just because it's stuck with me for so long, is about four of us. It was Kathy, Deborah Carey, Kathy Anderson, and I. We started this thing about 8 or 9 years ago. We tried to, where we wanted to get together from the north and the south to deal with the human rights violations against people on the street, and actually creating a caring situation for people and defending them. And I remember sitting there with Kathy and her saying, you know, there's two, I don't know if she used the word subjects or issues or situations or something, that only two things that I've lost friends over, and that's homelessness and Palestine. And so I just wanted to say that because you know, there's personal, and then there's personal, other kind of personal, you know, and I feel like Kathy, who on a day-to-day basis like helped people, and also just in her writing and her way, you know, really defended people's dignity, you know, and served it that way. And so I'm really grateful to know her, and thanks for listening.
Got a little green for each one, so I think I'm okay. This is a Kate Wolf song. I listen to the sound of the wind blowing wild, crying like a warning in the night. Crying like a warning in the night. If you would save a friend, if you would serve your own, rise up in the morning with the light. Rise up in the morning with the light. Rise up in the morning and hear the sisters call. Brother, brother, brothers. Well, they're standing by the door. You know one spirit leads us. You know we all must go. The wind blows wild, wild along the shore. Nobody's clown and everybody's mime. A riddle when there is no other answer. Dancing on the breeze like like Mr. Tambourine. We were dancing on a sea of laughter. We were dancing on a sea of laughter. Did you see him? He was there to wave to you. All the times you've needed him before. And I listened to the sound of the years going down. I got 60 years blowing in the wind. 60 years blowing in the wind. The years they go by like a crazy lullaby. How many times did you see him? Did you see him? He was there to wave to you. All the times you've needed him before. They say this one will lead you, and they say we all must go. The sun goes wild, wild along the shore. I think that's all I'm going to do now, but gee, I sure love Kathy, and I'm glad that her family's so strong and wonderful. And her presence on this planet just makes everybody's life, made it live everybody's life a lot better. And the fact that she was here is just like angels do happen. They do. And we're all angels.
Thanks. Hi, my name's Saj, and I just love Kathy Epling forever. And the reason is because when I was a young woman coming over here pregnant for the first time, I went over to her bookstore back when she was with John McClellan. And I didn't really have much in those times, including very much food. And I was pregnant with my daughter, who's 32 now, and she also has a baby now. And I didn't have anything really very much at all. I was actually dumpster diving for food at Marsha's. And Kathy directed me over to her place to receive clothing from my mother from Boston. It gave me an address to receive things at. But besides that, now I read now that Kathy was actually in bookstores in Boston doing all kinds of work with Boston bookstores, which, you know, in my life, I used to live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, near Harvard Square, and had, you know, an advent of my time in my life there in the bookstore worlds of, you know, places like Harvard Coop and things. But actually, I'm very interested in Kathy in so many different ways. And, you know, during the pregnancy of her child, Gabe, my fourth daughter, Pomona Lisa, was pregnant at the same time, so I was actually pregnant with her through a pregnancy. And just, you know, I used to go into her old bookstore back when John was there back in those days, and then I saw her, you know, be with Paul, and I thought Paul was really a cool guy because of his activism, and I got to work with her daughter Laurel at the Mateel Cafe, and I just love Laurel. She's one of the sweetest people, kind of like an embodiment of Kathy, but she's her own person too, and she's just such a sweet girl, you know, and you find that out when you're working as a waitress with somebody. Like, I was older working, and it was really hard to do everything, and she's always backing me up and helping me, and she's a really sweet girl. And the whole family's really nice. Garth is a genius, of course, in computer things, and such a great teacher and an inventor of new ways to be around here and helping people so much, and, you know, bringing Garberville a little bit up to date more, you might say. He's kind of a forerunning thinker kind of guy, and helped the Mateel Center too a lot, doing his, you know, leadership things, just like his mother, leading in the community with like Kathy's thing with the health center and all the different
community organizations that she's been deeply involved with. But beyond that, the last few years, what I've seen with Kathy is that she's such a deeply good soul that even through her aging, see, sometimes aging is difficult on people and they stop being able to do outreach, but not Kathy. She still was always doing her outreach and kindness, So in the name of her, I really think we should all try to keep doing outreach and kindness to others that we know in some way may or may not be less fortunate than us, to just try to remember those kindnesses that she was always showing us. You could look at her and see a kind woman. So remember her that way and always try to emulate that in her name, keep on her spirit of love and kindness and giving, and sharing. And it's a higher consciousness that she had. Her poetry and her loveliness and her grace. Remember her voice as you're thinking of her beautiful poetry. I do hope that we will get a compendium of her poetry, and another wish of mine, and I'm sure of many other people, is a memorial space at the community garden there, across from Tooby Park there, where there's a space near a garden area devoted to Kathy Epling, because she would love that. I envision arbors of beauty, lovely flowers, bird baths, and however many kittens and cats you'd like. Anyway, we love her. Please try to do something there. All that would all be peaceful for her.
Hi, how's it going, everybody? My name's Robin, and some of you might have met me as Ariel. I grew up about a mile up a dirt road from the Epling family. My parents had their own little homestead. And Kathy treated me like I was her son. She was really awesome. She fed me and lots of Dutch baby. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's kind of like a pancake cooked in a cast iron skillet with some powdered sugar on there, and it was delicious. And I loved her a ton. She's an amazing soul, and sometimes I worried, actually, growing up. I was kind of a ruminative thinker, you might say, and sometimes I worried that my best friend in the world, Garth, wouldn't turn out as good as he might, because Kathy was so easygoing and so sweet, and with Laurel too. I mean, I grew up with them, and I saw just the crazy family stuff that happens. You know what I mean? And I was in there with them, and I worried that there wasn't enough discipline or something. But you know what? Garth and Laurel and Gabe are such loving, beautiful people. I was totally wrong. And Kathy knew better. She knew to just love and be sweet and hold somebody if they needed it, and I'll miss her a lot for sure. Thank you.
I think it's so amazing that Kathy had a chance to touch each one of us. And as I look around the room and I see these people that have so much passion and so much ability and so much dedication to things of all kinds. And I think that Kathy was a little bit of the inspiration for each one of us. And so there's a little part of Kathy that made you the person that you are, or helped you be the person that you are. And so if we can just take that forward and try to be that same inspiration for other people as we see them around town and love them. And we shared, Kathy used to write some things for the Christian Science Monitor, and so we had a wonderful opportunity to talk about some of those things and her love of her family, but everybody here was her family. And everybody in the world was her family. And she never ever turned anybody away from something that they needed, and especially encouragement and hope. And for a lot of people that come here, I don't know why it is exactly, but there are people that are looking for hope and looking for a dream. And I think in Kathy's name that we need to make sure that every single person that we meet here leaves with just a little bit more hope and a little bit more of a dream. And one of Paul's dear sweet thoughts was to have buttons made that says Kathy Epling has our back. And the button machine is on order and she'll be arriving any day.
I've been asked to remind everyone of the silent auction going on that needs to close soon. There's lots of really awesome items over there, books and so forth, and the benefits, of course, go to Gabe and the family. But I also want to, since I have been asked up here to do this, share with you that I was told, I was a researcher from out of town. I wanted to interview back to the Landers. I spoke with Gentry Anders on the phone, lately of Humboldt County, and extensively talked to her quite a bit. And so for my visit, she told me to go to Paul and Kathy's bookstore. So Paul will talk to you a lot. So, of course, what's interesting about this is Paul later tells me that, I walked in the bookstore and basically Kathy is his narc detector. And she gave me the clean bill of health and was incredibly supportive and kind, and held me, responsible for being able to report back to the community in a Schwitt meeting. She was just another one of the strays that she looked out for, lost people, and I was certainly an extremely lost person. And the rest of you can blame her for me being here, maybe more often than others. And also apologies, Kathy, for getting Paul so stoned. I know that might have been a slight consternation for a bit, but anyway, I love you very much and thank you. Don't forget the silent auction. Please do. Lots of awesome stuff over there for a good cause.
I don't think she'd be so worried about the getting stoned. It's the hydration that she was always worried about. Paul being hydrated at all times. I wasn't going to speak, but I felt like I needed to speak for her because I don't, her and I, we tag team poverty in our community, and she did a lot of things in secret that you didn't know about, lots of things, and that's how she was. She silently put her head down and worked, and towards this, before she left, I really felt that we were talking about the last quarter of our lives and what we were going to do and how we were going to secure that for the most vulnerable in our people in our community, and that was going to be through a respite center. And we wrote that proposal for Measure Z money, and I never had heard back what had happened, but that was truly one of the last things that she was working on. Now that I look back on it, we talked a lot, and I always thought that, and Paul, forgive me, but I thought we were talking about Paul's passing, and now that I look back on it, we were talking about her passing and her getting ready to leave and what she needed to do to leave. And so that's what she was busy doing. And the whole time she wanted some social rest. And the enabling came from a letter to the editor that was written about us. Lots of letters to the editor was written about us and our works. And because she wanted that respite center, she wanted to secure something so that when she's gone, that the next generation and the next generation of people that come have some place to come to get their mail, to get the services, to get everything that they got at the bookstore, dog food, all the things that she did. And I see a garden, but I see a garden at a respite center, and that's where I see a garden. I don't see a garden just somewhere out, because that's really not who she was. The garden was where she was with the people, and that's what I really see. And that's really what she was working on in her last final days. And I think that we need to continue to work on that in our community. We've been working, her and I, for many, many years, and nothing much has changed. And I know that she found that discouraging in many ways, because she was the glue to many of these places. Schwitt, the Redwood Rules, she was the glue. And so during her last days, where there was some real question on what was going on, and I know that she was very concerned about Gabe and his health, and Paul and his health, and just securing things. And now that I look back, I really see what she was doing. So I think as a community, what we need to do is work on the things she was working on, and that is Chill, a respite center, a place where people can be welcomed. That's what she did. You know, somebody told me, first when I was told to get the F out of town, second, Kathy said welcome. So she was our welcoming committee. And I could see when the midwife turned to her side, I could see Kathy saying, "Let me tell you about this." And her and I have stood face to face to police, to the poor. We've looked for dead children in camps. We've looked for dead animals. We've bailed people out of jail. We've bailed dogs out of jail. And I think that one of the projects that she worked about, that I'll share with you, that she found the most rewarding, and it was pretty stupid, but one of the things the police did was they would drive by and they would see the dog tags, and they would say they don't have tags, so they would pull over and threaten to take the dogs. And so I had this really great idea that we could write a grant, and we could get the dogs immunized, and they could get their little tags, and that would stop all of that harassment. And it worked. We immunized over 100 animals. It was so fun to be able to, we both were tag teaming. She would stop them. Hold on, Debbie's on her way. She can write a voucher, and Amy helped us with that, write that grant. And it was so rewarding to say that our animals are just as healthy as anybody's animals. And she loved animals. She really loved animals a lot. And that's why she gave away hundreds of pounds of dog food all the time. I mean, we constantly, so there's going to be a lot of gaps. There was a place to get mail, there was a place to get dog food, a place to get food, a place to welcome you. So there's a lot of things we have to step into that she was doing, and God bless her. I mean, she really really walked the walk. Nobody walked the walk the way she did. I mean, she walked it out. She was a true Christian to me. I mean, she walked it in every way, shape, and form, and that was the thing that I love so much about her, and that she could keep a secret.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts and remembrances of our darling Kathy. Paul would like to say a few words.
I wanted to thank the people who put this on. There's 24 people that worked to make this happen. And I could just stand around and do nothing, and it was really great. And it's been a great event, and I really appreciate what people have done to make this happen. And also, there's a video room happening here, so if you were too shy to get up, or you want to have a record of document, you might say, your relationship to Kathy, come into that room and do a little camera work and make your statement. And it'll end up being a documentary that we'll maybe be able to use later. Other than that, I want to say that Kathy used to always, my heroes, Tolstoy, Gandhi, she used to always rag on them. She'd say, oh, it's easy to be a saint, but to be a wife of a saint or a partner of a saint, that's really what's hard. And I have to say that being a partner of a saint, it wasn't that hard.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving. Thank you for loving our dear Kathy. Reminder that we've got this amazing book for you to share your thoughts, and the video room and the other right back here. Thank you all. Good night.